Welcome to the Hacking Your Health podcast with Ben Canning and Dave Kennedy. Two guys heading out to hack body, mind, business, and beyond. We are here to provide a single source, bullshit-free guide to understanding your body and how you can live better for longer.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Look, real quick before we get into this week's podcast. Firstly, I want to say thank you to everybody who continues to share us, support us, listen to us. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. Secondly, at this point, you will have heard me talk about my new coaching program, Hacks. In line with the launch on the 11th of November, I'm going to give away a spot on the program. So that is 12 months coaching giveaway entirely for free. All you need to do is head over to Twitter at BenCanning87 and or at WeHackHealth. Follow the details on the post with the video explaining the program. All you need to do to enter is give your name and your email address, and the winner will be picked this Sunday, the 6th of November. Good luck. Over to the podcast. Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. I am Ben Canning.
I'm Dave Kennedy.
And this is Hacking Your Health podcast. It's so funny how we can just transition into that with BS beforehand. It's like, nope, time to be semi-serious. People are going to be listening to this.
Like, we're pros, man. Like, at this point in time, like, we're like pros at this job. Like, we know exactly what we're doing. And like, you know, we're like grade A podcasters at this
Podcasters.
point.
We put the work in. We put the hours in.
Yeah.
Two things. Number one, I like your t-shirt. Number two, you definitely look leaner in your face already.
Thank you. Yeah. It's, you know, the weight loss has been going very well from the cutting perspective. And, you know, I got a little bit of white stuff here. There we go. When you wear black shirts, you can obviously see like the little fuzzies and things like that. But no, it's been going really good. I can't complain. I'm looking stronger, leaner. What's crazy, you know, you look at pictures when I was like 248 and where I'm at now, and the muscle definition when you drop, you know, 20 pounds is very different and noticeable. So you're kind of like stripping back the fat and seeing exactly what you have.
So you look bigger.
Done all this work
like,
for.
You're technically lighter, but you look bigger. Yeah.
Technically lighter, but I look bigger. It's really neat. In fact, that's the first time that's really been able to see that level of progress and results, you know, of, you know, 2.5 years of lifting and shutting that down to see what we actually have underneath there. So it's cool. And we're not done yet. You know, we're still going. So it's going to be an interesting one, but it's been really good there. And you, dude, you look amazing. Your definition out, dude, your how much your delts popped out. I was like, man, you know, that you're obviously your abs and your obliques and everything's popping out there. So like how's that going?
It is going well. It's funny because the same idea, like, you know, I've lost, I guess, almost 30 pounds at this point. Number one, didn't think I had 30 pounds to lose, but here we are. But the thing about it is, like, at the minute, this is where I'm in that sort of funny stage where I'm like lean, but because calories and carbs are so low, it's like a little bit flat. So it'll be interesting. I'll take photos and I'll keep you updated as we go this week. But once I start to sort of reintroduce more food so today's Wednesday, bit of a recap for anybody. Had a high day on Saturday, low calories. So like 1650 Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Tomorrow we'll start to have slightly higher. So we'll go from 50 grams of carbs to 120. And then that's Thursday, Friday is then 400 grams of carbs to like fill me up as much as possible. The difference that you'll see in terms of like low carbs versus having carbs and filling out will be absolutely night and day. And that's the cool thing about your body. Like that, like even on the high day, like it was almost like I could feel the carbs going through my veins. Like they came up. I actually meant to send you a photo. Like I had a bowl of chocolate shredded wheat, didn't have any Cocoa Puffs, but I literally, like within about 5 minutes, I could feel it. So how your body reacts to certain things and how your body reacts to carbs is very cool. But aside from that, how's it going? Really well. Like I have zero complaints. I didn't have to train legs 3 times this week, so you sort of get your training. I did legs on Monday, then I did upper push yesterday, upper pull today. Tomorrow I'll just do like an upper session that will be quite light. Friday I'll have off, and then Saturday will just be like a little bit of a pump in Chris Bailey in the gym in over there.
That's
so,
awesome.
It's going well. Zero complaints. I can't wait though. Like I have been, like the level of me going down the rabbit hole of watching food videos has expanded to now watching food videos of different apparatus to cook foods. So it is a deep rabbit hole I'm in, but I'm looking forward to the other side. And I don't think I'll go totally mad. Like James is like, I'll give you a free day on Sunday, which is just like free for all, but I'll stay relatively in control because I feel good in the position that I'm in now in terms of like how lean I am and how much scope that gives me for the next 6 months to sort of build calories. Like I would like to stay relatively lean throughout. So I'm not just going to piss it up all against the wall. I know you and I will be eating lots next week, but we'll still stay within calories because you're still in a cut and I'll not be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's a good point to bring up to folks of like why this like bulking, cutting, and why does that, make a lot of sense in what we're doing. And, a couple of people in the BC fam had a couple of questions of that today of like, I'm thinking about doing kind of like a bulking phase. What does it mean? And, I think these tools are things that we can use to essentially hack our bodies to do what we want them to do. But it's not these drastic changes in our bodies that make this type of stuff happen. So, let's just say you're at 2,000 calories on a cut and you've lost the appropriate weight, but you want to look bigger as far as muscle. Well, what you could do is just be in a slight deficit, ride that for a long period of time, and you could build muscle that way, but it's more of a slower process. You will grow slower muscle mass, and it's much harder to kind of benchmark what your total daily energy expenditure is because that changes as you add muscle mass, and you don't want to be too much in a caloric deficit because you're not going to build muscle. So the safer approach, but this approach is something that you have to have a lot of control and willpower over. And this is where I think a lot of people get very concerned about it. And I'm one of those people that was very much into that the first time we started doing a bulking phase, which is, do you have the confidence in yourself of the things that you're doing today, the foundation that you built off of today to be able to do something like this and trust yourself that you go back to those ways when absolutely necessary. And when I say back to the ways, you're not really changing what you're doing. I mean, you're still counting macros, you're still counting calories, but you're increasing it and you're starting to gain body fat. You will gain body fat if you're in a surplus, but you're also maximizing the amount of muscle you can put on and ensuring that you have all of the adequate nutrients and things like that for your body to be able to put on as much muscle mass as possible. So the whole concept, with the cutting and bulking and things like that is you can absolutely still gain muscle and be in a caloric deficit if you do things really strict and appropriately, but you can gain more muscle faster by adding more calories. And here's the thing, like, I think everybody thinks like bulking, like they're just eating just 4,000 calories off of the bat. It takes months and months and months to get to 4,000 calories. It's a gradual increase over time to continuously give your body enough nutrients to continue to push those. And I'll tell you, when I'm on a bulking phase, I feel like a god, like as far as energy levels in the gym, like I could work out in the gym for like 5 hours if I wanted to, like my energy levels are through the roof. When I'm on a cutting phase, I still have energy to perform my workouts, but they're definitely not anywhere near as intense as, being on a low amount of calories. So, this bulking and cutting stuff that we're talking about here is only used for folks that have already built a really solid foundation and can trust themselves not to let themselves slip. And I think for me, having, this whole journey has been an emotional roller coaster for me because I lose the weight and then we're like, hey, we need to gain weight. I'm like, whoa, shit, I'm not gaining weight. What are you talking about? Like, I'm not going to go up in weight. I just lost the weight. But, if you want to build muscle mass and you want to, not be, what we call skinny fat and just not have definition and things like that to get to that desired results and continue to push yourself, you kind of have to go through these cycles of figuring your body out and pushing things through. And so for me, the first time we did a bulking phase was a real light bulking phase. And then we went back down to cutting. I started freaking. I'm like, Ben, I'm fat again. Like, what's going on? You're like, dude, you can still see your abs. What are you talking about? Like, I'm super fat. Like, I'm doing 3,500 calories. I was eating all the time. I'm going to be the same person I was before. And you go through all these emotional roller coasters. And but you have to trust that the things that you've built, the tools that you built, push you back into it. And I'll tell you, like, I went through more of an extreme cut this time around. Where, and this was, normally you wouldn't do something like this. You would gradually decrease it, but I wanted to push it and you agreed, which is cool. I did not agree to my 7 days of training a week, unfortunately, no. The cutting phase was much more extreme where I went from, I think I was at like 3,800 calories to like 2,200 calories. And
I think we did 2,500. We didn't go straight to 20.
You're right. Yep. 2,500. And so, a much more drastic change, but, I was able to weather the storm of what my body was expecting for the first few weeks. And after that, it became second nature essentially to do that. So I was able to get, faster into it, trust myself, trust my instincts, and, be successful in this. And we're continuing to go down. So I think that's the cool part about all this is if you trust yourself, which is scary, don't get me wrong, but these types of things can have a much better impact on what your goals are much quicker than doing it, over time.
Yeah, I think there's so many points that I want to talk about in that, so bear with me. The first one is the trust in yourself thing is an important one, and it's a bit of an observation I actually had over the weekend. So as I said, had a high day on Saturday, and for anybody who doesn't know what a high day is, basically run low calories. I think it was Monday to Friday. James sort of had said that I would get a high day at the weekend with the intent of filling myself up with glycogen to then increase the intensity of my workouts for the sort of start of this week coming into the end and into the final bit of the shoot. And two things I observed at the weekend. Number one, I actually find it much easier to stay within a lower calorie amount. So what I mean by that is I was eating 1,550 calories the week before, and I find that much easier. But then whenever I think it was 1,000 more, so it was 2,600, I think. I found that so difficult. The other point is the way it was split was 140 grams of protein, 50 grams of fat, and 400 grams of carbs. The reason that the protein was lower was because we wanted to make sure that we could still optimize digestion. And obviously with protein, it slows everything down. And we wanted to make sure that we had the full value from the carbs. I really felt the lower protein. So obviously the reason that we all maximize the protein is to keep you fuller for longer. I was not full. I was eating way more food and I ate all day, but I was not full, and I really, really struggled with that. And then the day after, because I'd eaten so much the day before, I was still really, really hungry. So that trust and that being able to navigate that is quite a difficult one. Whenever it comes to the cutting and bulking conversation, number one, I still don't like the term bulking. I get it. But to me, it's that everybody thinks of, that you get the fucking pizza and Pop-Tarts and that's what you need to do. Like you just stop a cup one day and then you just eat donuts the next day. And it has that sort of, it carries that in the name, and that's why I don't like it, but I understand it. And the thing about it is, it's exactly what you're saying. You need to get yourself to a certain level, and it's not that you're doing anything different. It's just that you start to manipulate the numbers, and that's what I try and get across to anybody that comes on board at the start. Is we're going to spend X amount of weeks really dialing in the basics and you tracking the data. Once we have then the data and the information, it's literally just a numbers game. So if you want to build muscle and we want to move into surplus, you eat more food. If you want to move into a deficit and we want to do a cut, you eat less food. And you just play about with numbers. So it's not technically that you're doing anything different. It's just the amounts of the thing that you're doing is different. But it definitely takes a while to get into that headspace of the transition. And again, I have been in that position before that you just think it's a fucking free for all because you have 4,000 calories. Like, I just eat whatever I want, which you can eat more things, but you just don't want to take the piss with it. And I have been in that situation before where you do fall in the trap of eating shitty foods because you have them available. Whereas I have to shout out Kev Cody again because his calories, I keep putting them up and his weight keeps coming down. I'm like, oh, what the fuck is going on over there? But he is staying away from negative calories or, I don't like to bastardize foods, but he's eating nutrient dense foods and lean, good quality foods. So it's a lot of food. But he's getting the benefits from it because his body has to actually process and digest it. So that's why he's able to continue to push his calories and for his weight to continue to come down. Yes, is it easy to get 3,300 calories in? Of course, we could go to Five Guys and do it in one sitting, but that's not the point. It's about getting it from good quality food and being able to navigate it both sides. But yeah, you're right. It's incremental changes over time, the same as it is in the way down. It will just sort of adjust things with time. And for a bit of context, again, I've spoken to James after Saturday. I'm going to go from whatever my calories are this week. I think it will average probably about 1,850 when we take into considering the weekend.
That's crazy.
That's high considering what it was. Average last week was 1,550.
Oh my God.
But we'll move to 4 weeks maintenance. So November essentially will be at maintenance calories. So we're not going to go straight into that push for calories. And I have specifically said time and time again to him, I was like, I want to stay as lean as possible the whole way throughout this, and to sort of see if it can be done. And for anybody who's been listening for a long time, they will know that I hate cardio, and I will continue to remind everybody. But I'm sort of in a place that the last time I decided I wanted to feel physically fit, I was 30 pounds heavier. So it was hard. And I started running, which was hard when I was 30 pounds heavier. So I've decided now that I feel relatively fit from doing so much cardio that I want to maintain that level of fitness. So that's going to be a big part of the next phase. I want to keep some level of cardio and some level of like relatively decent intensity cardio, not any endurance or long distance, but just have something in every day, because there's a feel good factor that comes along with it. Do I enjoy it? I don't know if I'm quite there yet, but I'm definitely more tolerant to it, to the extent that, as we know, I ordered a Whoop as a bit of an experiment to use so again, listen to the podcast and to use the data actually to understand the strain and the recovery and when to use it, when to push and when to pull back. Because I think the last time I had it, I was just like, all right, okay, 13% recovery, go fuck yourself. I'm going to go and train anyway. So yeah, that's it for me on that. But yeah, transitioning from, I guess, quite a severe cut to moving into maintenance to moving into a surplus. And then the plan is for me that I have that right up until the end of May, which again, I'm excited for, to see how much progress I can make in that time.
Yeah, it makes sense. And those are the types of things that I think, from a trusting yourself, of being able to be that strict, and then being able to, know that you're going to be coming off of it. It's not going to be how you live your life all the time. Those are, cool things that, that excites me when I'm going through this whole situation. And, it's a lot of learning, your body, learning what you can push yourself to, what you should eat, times you should eat. When I'm on, 4,000 calories, I'm eating all the time. So I'm eating in the morning.
What time
I'm
do you eat? All the time.
Yeah, all the time, right? But when I'm on a cut, I typically skip breakfast. I'll do essential amino acids as a supplementation. And just a quick tidbit there, I've mentioned this previously on podcasts. Your body's actually eating away at muscle typically in the morning. So it's best to start the mTOR production by getting some essential amino acids first thing in the morning. So as soon as you wake up, essential amino acids in the morning or protein is a good way to ensure that your muscle is not doing what's called muscle catabolism, or basically eating away your muscle. So a good way to kickstart that process by getting at least some essential amino acids in the morning. If you're fasting, that doesn't typically break your fast. There are some studies like if sucralose, spikes glucose and things to that effect, but you're most likely, you're not going to be messing up your digestive tract. You're still going to get the benefits of fasting through essential amino acids. You're not going to really be breaking the fast too much, but small tidbit there, quick sidebar, get essential amino acids in the morning when you can. But for me, my first meal is typically a protein shake, and that's going to be around 11 or 12 o'clock, and then 2 o'clock I'm actually eating my first real meal, and then I have another protein shake typically after my workout, if I'm doing an afternoon workout, or I'll just have a protein shake, and then I'll have my dinner, and then I usually have some cottage cheese or things like that as a snack before I go to bed or whatnot, from a casein perspective, to have the longer digesting protein that usually makes up around 2,000 to 2,300 calories, and that's usually where I kind of make my mark at. So, I don't have a lot of room to play with when it comes to that when you're in those types of phases, but, definitely.
You don't have a lot of room. You don't want to talk about not having a lot of room.
Yeah. No, you're in a different boat, buddy. I'm not talking about you. So
the thing actually, the two things that I want to touch on as well. One thing I'm genuinely struggling with at the minute is I'm finding it hard to put together actual meals. And I think that this is why I'm feeling hungrier, because I don't feel like I'm actually sitting down to a full meal. So generally, as I've spoken about before, like I tend to eat relatively high protein, high carbs, and low fat. But the minute it's high protein, high fat, and lower carbs, I just don't know how to fucking eat like that. Like I just do not. So I'm eating like the amount of peanut butter and almond butter and dark chocolate that I've eaten over the past 2 weeks has been absolutely ridiculous. But I'm eating that and then eating like a packet of roast beef. I'm like, this isn't a full meal. So that's something that I definitely struggle with. And the other point that I want to touch on, and this is something that I've definitely changed my mind on, and you will maybe have actually seen this change. Before, obviously, we've spoken about everything being sustainable, which I still stand by. Like, I haven't changed my mind about that. Like, everything that we do needs to be something you can do long term. But the thing that I have changed my mind on is the level of calories that I'm willing to go to with clients. And what I mean by that is exactly the situation that I'm in. Like, am I willing to really try and push things to see how far I can go with it for a short space of time, knowing that number one, it's not sustainable, and knowing that there's an end time frame. So if it's 4 weeks, 6 weeks, or 8 weeks, just to see what I can tolerate and how it affects my body. I think that that's an important thing to actually learn about yourself. So you and I, we're going to do that. Like, I'm going to test to see where we can actually push that, to see what you can tolerate, still function, and get everything done. But it's definitely something that I have changed my mind on, and I'm willing to go to, like, if you had told me 6 months ago that I'd eaten 1,500 calories, I'd have told you go fuck yourself. But I know that I can handle it, and I know that my body responds to it pretty well. So if I do need to do that thing, or for whatever reason, I know I can do it. I know I can handle it. I know the time frame I can handle it for. I know how to navigate, like, if I have to have a high day. And that, again, just comes down to the understanding of yourself, going through the process, and that continued experiment of learning your own body and what it can take to tolerate.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, pushing yourself to the limits is what we're all talking about here, right? I mean, it's resistance training. You're pushing yourself to make yourself better. The food, when you don't have an addiction to food, and when I say addiction to food, I mean, food's amazing. Food is sustenance for our body. We enjoy eating food. I'm not saying you shouldn't enjoy food, but when you don't have an addiction to food, when you've come out of that kind of phase where you're continuously eating all the time and all you can think about is food and all those other things, and granted, all you can think about is food when you're looking at the food channel. But
it gets me by, though. It does genuinely get me
right?
by. And if that's what I have to do, that's what I have to do.
Yep. So those are the things that I think make the big difference when you have control, self-control over all of those different things around your life, your body, the progress. I mean, all that is in your own control in what you can do every single day. So, this is all possible. It's not rocket science. It's not exclusive to bodybuilders or power lifters or anything to that effect. It's understanding what you need to do to control your body and to really try to make yourself better, right? And that's all we're trying to do at the end of the day is those incremental improvements, making yourself better every single day, and having trust in yourself once you've built a solid foundation that you could be successful doing it.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it for me is the mindset and the mentality side of it. And I've spoken about it before, and I put a tweet out last week. Like, there was one day I was this close, like, to grabbing a spoon and grabbing the Nutella jar, because I was just like, I just needed some sort of flavor or something. But I took that split second, and I was like, you know what, this isn't, number one, going to get me to where I want to be in terms of closer to my goals. And number two, it doesn't represent the person that I want to become. And I've spoken about this. I did a post on it afterwards on Twitter about, if you take that second in between the decisions that you make to decide, right, okay, I have a vision of the person that I want to become, what they do, how they live their life. Is this in line with that? And it maybe seems like such a small thing. And it goes back to the conversation that we had about teaching yourself to say no to picking up your phone or whatever. Yes, in that split second, is a tablespoon or a teaspoon of Nutella going to make any difference to my progress? Probably not. However, it's then the narrative that I tell myself that I don't stick to the things that I said I'm going to do, or I'm completely off the rails with whatever. I'm not saying taking 1 teaspoon of Nutella is off the rails, but I made a promise to myself. I made a commitment to myself that I was going to prep for this, and I was going to stick to everything 100%, and I have done that. So if I start to go down that path of, oh, well, I'll just have this and I'll just have that, it opens up a whole gateway of, then you're at the bottom of the jar of Nutella and you've eaten 5,000 calories without even realizing it. And for me, it goes a little bit deeper, because I think about you guys, and I think about like clients, and then anybody who listens to the podcast on Twitter. Like, I feel like I almost have a duty of care to live the life that I'm telling people that I live, and not like, be like, oh yeah, I'm doing this, I'm only eating 1,500 calories and I'm secret eating Nutella in the back. So yeah, I mean, the mindset sort of stuff is a big piece of it. And if you can get your head around the reason that you're doing things and the narrative that you tell yourself, and if you can control that, ultimately you would be able to succeed longer term.
And success is what it's all about. So in that success side, let's talk a little bit about improving a little bit more every single day around supplements, because this is one of the biggest discussions. I didn't know where you were going. I was like, yeah.
What's the transition here?
I'm trying to transition it over to supplements here, because one of the things that I get asked all the time is, what do you think about this supplement? And most of the time, I've never heard of that supplement before. I have no idea what it is, but here's the way that I look at supplements. And here's the way that I've changed my opinions of supplements over time. And here's what you can do to see if that's something that is useful for you. Okay. And these are the things that I've learned. I sit here and I study scientific research literally all day long. Like, if I get like spare 15 minutes, I'm checking out like NIH. I'm checking out, sports medicine reviews. I'm looking at, sample sizes and things like that. Listening, obviously, to various podcasts with Dr. Attia and The Drive and, Huberman, of course. And those are the things that I enjoy doing. And that's good. I'm jealous. I'm so jealous. So the biggest thing for me, when you look at a supplement is, what are you trying to accomplish? I had somebody in the Discord server, and this is, not a knock in any way, shape, or form, but they're asking me about, a specific supplement and when they would notice a difference using the supplement. Here's the thing. You most likely will never, ever notice a difference taking a supplement. Aside from some of the core ones, maybe like fish oils and vitamin D, you typically will not experience a massive change in your body, fat burning, anything to that effect. Supplements are basically optimizing your body to be able to perform and allowing your body to have the right things to do what you need to do. So from a supplement perspective, if it's claiming fat burning, it's bullshit. There's not many thermogenics out there that actually equate to weight loss. There's a few that are typically banned because our bodies can't regulate temperatures when we're on those thermogenics. And so we overheat, we can die, heat stroke, all the other stuff. So that's why ephedrine was banned. Ephedrine was a fantastic weight loss solution because it would increase our thermogenics and allow us to burn more calories because it increases our body temperature, thus creating, more calorie burn. Here's the thing, like anything, if you're doing cardio and you eat more, you're not going to lose or have the desired results of that. So supplements are, some of those things that I highly don't recommend to people unless you absolutely need it, except for a couple of exceptions. And I've talked about this before on the podcast. Like creatine is one of the most well-studied supplements on the market. It helps with recovery. It helps with muscle growth. It helps with brain activity. It's extremely safe. And so creatine is one of those. Fish oils is another. The longevity impact, as well as overall health, the cardiovascular health and brain health of fish oils, cannot be understated. And then broccoli extracts, have a massive antioxidant property of repairing DNA and your overall health of body. So those are the three that I would typically recommend as far as a supplementation perspective. But, again, unless you're doing regular blood work, like the way that I look at supplementation is I get my blood work done and I'll do micro nutrient testing as part of that. And it'll tell me where I have deficiencies in my blood work and what I could use to basically supplement against it. So if I have low iron, for example, I can supplement with low iron because I'm not getting it inside of my diet. So supplements are those things that in most of the cases, the stuff that's being marketed in the sports industry is totally 100% bullshit. Or it's severely microdosed to where it doesn't have what the physical studies from a scientific research says has an impact in your body, or you're getting something that isn't even what they say is in there. So, there was recently a big issue with ectosteroids, which if you're not familiar with those, one of the biggest ones out there right now is called turkesterone. There was a small sample size study that came out that showed that turkesterone had similar properties to Dianabol and Tren, which are very potent anabolic steroids, which bind to androgen receptors. In this case, these are plant-based, so more natural. And the biggest issues that you run into with steroids is, one, it impacts LDL and your cholesterol levels, and it also can impact kidney and liver functionality. So very toxic, neurotoxic as well to your body, so not good health-wise. The study that came out for ectosteroids, again, plant-based, you can buy it from supplement stores and things to that effect, showed comparable results from an anabolic perspective for muscle growth, lean body mass production in those by using this natural supplement that comes from plants that has similar effects to anabolic steroids. Now, here's the thing. If you actually start diving down into the research, the sample sizes were extremely low. There's multiple other studies that show it doesn't have that big of an impact from a muscle building perspective. But this one study that, was peer reviewed, but again, very small sample size, showed that there was this effect. So the verdict is still really out. And it did show that there wasn't an impact to liver and kidney enzymes, which is actually a very promising thing. And ectosteroids bind to your estrogen receptors versus your other receptors. And those are the things that people are looking at, like, oh, this could be a potential option. If you don't want to take steroids, it could be more of a healthier option. Here's the thing. There's been no long-term studies on the uses of this and its impact to your body. Does it cause cancer? Does it cause cardiovascular issues? Nobody knows. And how does this impact your overall health and longevity as well? And two, we don't even know, does this actually work or is it actually doing something? And so those are the things that, you have to be really careful of in the supplement market, where they're promising focus, clarity, when they're promising, boost of energy. Well, how's that energy being produced and how are they doing it? Typically it's gonna be caffeine and a bunch of other bullshit that they mix into it that makes it sound good. What are the things that are actually in that product, and what's the peer reviewed science say? And one of the supplements that I take, which is called phosphatic acid, is something that has been shown in studies to increase mTOR production, which increases muscle mass, lean body muscle mass. And so there's a couple of supplements out there, but here's the thing. So like you go to Redcon One site, and Redcon One offers what they call their 11 Bravo, which is their mTOR activation muscle building product. And not to knock them, their dosing size is actually above what the scientific peer-reviewed research shows. So in the peer-reviewed research from NIH back in 2016, they use between 250 milligrams and 375 milligrams in that. So they're doing more heavy of a dosage. But if you look at the price of that, it's $40 for 750 milligrams of phosphatic acid, when you can get 2,000 milligrams of phosphatic acid for $15, right? But it's not branded, it's not branded 11 Bravo. It doesn't look cool. So, a lot of times these supplements, you can get the components or the recipe that they're building in there and get the direct thing of that for a much cheaper, solution that's not going to cost you $1 million. Same thing for creatine. There was just a question on Twitter today about like, hey, I really like Thorne creatine, but it's over, it's priced 4 times the amount. Why is that priced 4 times the amount? Well, creatine is creatine. Whether it's creatine monohydrate or Creapure, Creapure is going to mix better with water. But at the end of the day, creatine is creatine. Find the cheapest creatine you can possibly buy and use that as your main method for supplementation. So again, supplements are one of those things that you use very cautiously. Be very careful about what you put into your body, because it can have long-lasting, resonating longevity impacts to yourself, as well as you're really not going to see the results. Like, from ectosteroid perspective, I studied a lot of this, and I looked, Jeff Nipper did a whole thing on it, and all the paper and researching. Huberman actually said some of the initial, research is looking positive. So he has some things pro to say for it. But when you start diving down to the research, you look at results from these folks, like there's not a lot of people saying, hey, I noticed a massive difference in muscle mass or things to that effect. So is it really worth risk when there's not a lot of research out there to go and do it? So just, my advice on supplements is, supplements are one of those things that after you've hit nutrition, after you've hit your fitness goals, that you're getting into resistance training, you're doing it on a regular basis, getting into blood work and how you can supplement based on your own body is important, aside from things like vitamin D. I don't know if I mentioned vitamin D before, but that's a highly important one. So vitamin D, fish oils, and Brocky sprouts are probably the 3 main ones in creatine. If you want to supplement something, those 4 there are probably the staple ones that anybody can really use, and you really can't hurt yourself. It is not going to have any massive impacts on your health. It's only going to improve longevity. But, again, be very careful on supplements. The promises of supplements are almost always bullshit, and you can usually find the ingredients that they're using and buy something that's 10 times cheaper, that doesn't have, testosterone booster 7,000 on it. It's going to be Tongali, which you can buy, for 1/10 the price. That's an extract of that. It's even more potent. So again, be very careful on supplements.
I think the thing about it is number one, do your research on it, and don't just go, Ben and Dave said take this, or the guy in the gym said take this. And I think that the thing that you need to remember on it is, you and I take a lot of supplements. Like, we're not here saying that don't take any supplements. Like, it is no secret that you and I take a lot of supplements. But I think that the 2 sides of that are number one, training, nutrition, recovery, hydration, sleep, cardio. Every other box is ticked, so it's like top of the pyramid. And is it a case of we're trying to find something that gives us that 1% edge? Absolutely. And also for me, like, it's just a bit of a general interest and a bit of a, I don't want to say hobby, because that's not what it is, but I guess it adds to the experiment. And for me, there's a lot of things that I take, but I take it because of the source that it comes from. So either the brand or the person that represents the brand. Like, a lot of the Trained by JP stuff is like pharmaceutical grade stuff, like in the nootropics and, the things like that for, you're talking about clarity and focus. Like, it is legitimately dosed, and it is something that will have an impact on your body, and it's a reliable source, and it's not just, a gimmicky marketing thing. But yeah, I think that people often look to supplements as if it's the solution to all their problems, and they try and do that first. And it's like you can even be further from that. And I think sort of understanding what it is that you're deficient in through blood testing, nutrient testing is an important one. And actually, that podcast from Will, I can't remember his second name, the CEO of Whoop, he talked about supplements in it. And he talked about that how it can actually be detrimental to take the supplements that aren't meant for you, or taking ones that are wrong for you versus not taking any at all. So definitely do your research on it. Definitely research number one what you need, but research number two the source that it comes from. And as they've said, like if you can get the single ingredient, then that would be preferable. Like for the longest time, and I actually blamed you for this the other day. For the longest time, I used to make my own pre-workout. So I would have got the individual ingredients, and then I could control the dosage. And then all of a sudden now I have like a whole fucking cabinet full, like a selection. But again, it just comes down to trying different things and seeing what works best and what works best for your body. But I think ultimately you need to have the understanding of your body first to see, is it going to actually affect you, or are you going to actually feel the benefits of it? Because if you just have never trained before, have never watched your nutrition, and decide that you're going to start taking this supplement, are you going to feel any different? Who fucking knows? But like it could be, infinite other things that you could do beforehand. And it's whenever you control all the controllables, then whenever you start to add and take things away, you'll know what is impacting you and what's not impacting you.
And I think, unless you have a good regimen that you're doing on a regular basis, you're not going to notice the benefits of a supplement, in my opinion. Like, so unless you're tracking your resting heart rate variability, your recovery and strain, like through Oura or Whoop, you're in a consistent cycle of what you eat from a carbohydrates perspective, when you eat them, how you do things, you're not going to notice these big different changes. In most cases, if something is in a supplement form and it promises testosterone boosting, is there some science behind that? Potentially, right? But again, no long-term studies on that, what its impact is to your overall body. Does it have an impact to your kidney and liver? Like there's so many variables that go into these natural sources of supplementation that, you need to be really cautious of. And, Tonga Ali is a great example of that, where, there are studies that show Tonga Ali increases testosterone within, folks, not substantially, but maybe, 200 levels, 200 from a free testosterone perspective. And that's great. If you're looking to boost a little bit of that, I would categorize that more in the testosterone support level, though. That is not going to increase your level of testosterone. It's going to help support your ecosystem for testosterone. So, there's little things that you can do from a tweaking perspective that are more on the natural supplementation side. But again, if you don't know what you're deficient at and you're taking a multivitamin, for example, I stopped taking a multivitamin because I actually have, the ability to tailor myself based off of my blood work. So I think those are all the important steps that you need to look at. Is if you're not doing blood work, you're not in a normal regimen, do not do supplements. Like there's no reason for it. And don't buy a supplement that says, hey, I'm going to fat burn 10,000 where you're going to get lean in 6 weeks or something like that. It's all a bunch of hogwash. Do not believe any of that stuff in any way, shape, or form.
Cancel order for the fat burner 10,000. I think the thing that, again, that we need to sort of reiterate is there's obviously levels to this as well. I don't want anybody who's like starting out or new or only listening or who doesn't really train to think, oh shit, I need to get my blood work, I need to do all this and blah, blah, blah. Like recognize where you're at in the journey and then slightly progress on it. Like even whenever I first started training, the supplements that I took was a decent whey protein and creatine. Like I didn't take anything else on top of that. Now, yes, okay, I was 8 years younger than I am now, and I feel like I wasn't necessarily feeling the effects of everything else. But as time has went on and I nailed those basics, then I was able to add, okay, right, maybe I will get this because I'll feel better, or vitamin D research, or cod liver oil, or greens powder, or whatever. Actually, this whole supplement chat has reminded me that I need to update my protocol on the Discord, because I saw somebody else like, that's from a while ago, that needs updated. But yeah, recognize that there are levels to this as well, and you don't need to all of a sudden start doing all these things that Dave and I do because you've heard it here. Like recognize where you are, nail the basics first in terms of nutrition, training, recovery, hydration, and then work from there.
Yep. And those are the basics that we're talking about. And I think, everything we preach on this podcast is basics. It's nothing like, hey, you need to completely uplift and change your entire life to be one where you're lifting 6 hours a day or things of that effect. It's these small changes that allow you to have large results long term. And again, like the effects of certain things, like obviously we can directly feel the impact of caffeine. Caffeine doesn't actually give us energy, though. It actually masks our body into our circadian clock, and when we're actually doing from like how tired we are, it kind of masks that to our brain and makes us think that we need more energy throughout the day based off of, what our time is and where we're at throughout the day and all those other stuff. And normally our bodies throughout the day start to wind down. Caffeine basically fakes our body into thinking, hey, it's still kind of earlier in the day from a mental clarity perspective, and gives us kind of that energy boost that we need. Now, the issue is, when that caffeine wears off, you have that caffeine crash and you start to feel super tired and dragged down and things like that. And so those are the things that, again, you have to be really careful of how you use supplementation. For me, I drink a lot of caffeine. I'm okay with that. I tolerate it well. And I do it as far as a pre-workout, and I'll typically have a cup of coffee and maybe, a diet soda, which I know isn't the greatest for you, but one can of diet soda, a day isn't going to kill me. I kind of go from there. But, again, just be very careful with what you're using, how you're using it, and know that most of this is BS, and you're literally just probably peeing out a different color because you're using the wrong type of supplements that your body actually needs to be able to support it.
Yeah, the thing about caffeine, and I got this from the Lord Savior, Dr. Andrew Huberman, it talks about people having that crash throughout the day. And I would say probably, I'm going to be quite confident in saying like at least 80% of the people who listen to this podcast have a cup of coffee as the first thing that they have in the morning because they feel tired. But in actual fact, I didn't steal this from Andrew Huberman. This is just actually a conversation I had with Matt. The first thing that you probably need in the morning is to hydrate yourself. So you wake up and you feel groggy and you feel like shit because you haven't had anything to drink in 8 hours or however long you've been in bed. So if you hydrate yourself first. But the conversation with Mr. Dr. Huberman was, he talks about the adenosine levels and about how you need to regulate that first thing in the morning. So what he recommends doing is waiting, I think he said, between 90 and 120 minutes after you wake up before you start to ingest caffeine, and you won't get that crash, because what's happening is you're masking that, or you're quote unquote fooling your adenosine levels at the start of the day, which they won't fix themselves unless they have that opportunity to do so in the morning. So you're masking it with the caffeine, then what happens whenever the caffeine starts to wear off, you just have that crash. Whereas if you sort of leave it, 90 minutes to 2 hours, they've sorted themselves out in the morning, they're cool, but the caffeine, then you'll get the benefits of it after, and you'll not have that crash later on the day. And that's something that I have taken on board. And even actually this morning, I was coming into my first call, and it was like 10 o'clock, and I was like, maybe I should have some caffeine. I was like, no, I actually need it. But the people sort of think that they do need it. But I think if you hydrate yourself well, another thing that I've been really focusing on is like electrolyte balance. And I'm not saying go and buy an electrolyte supplement. Salt is fine. But balance yourself out so you feel good in terms of that. And people are talking about headaches and feeling like shit before, and it probably is just a hydration and a electrolyte thing, and it's not that you need caffeine. Caffeine is a drug. Caffeine, you're taking drugs essentially.
Absolutely. And some of these things around energy production may be around what you're eating and when you're eating it. There was somebody asked on Twitter, he's like, after my workout, I feel extremely tired afterwards throughout the rest of the day. I'm just like totally drained. My question back was, well, what's your pre-workout look like and what's your post-workout look like? And there's a couple of things you can do potentially in there that isn't supplementation of either, prescription or drugs or things like that to, supplementation to help you. So, first and foremost, when you're about to go into a workout, your body needs energy to burn. So usually, carbohydrates pre-workout, if you're doing, complex carbohydrates, an hour or more prior to that to get your carbohydrates in. If you're looking at doing it in a shorter time frame, simple carbohydrates like fruit, like a banana, works great from an energy production perspective. It can almost be immediately utilized by your body from an energy standpoint. For me, I typically work out with a banana. If it's in the morning, I'll have a banana right before I work out. My pre-workout, and then I have an intra-workout, which is essential amino acids, which again, I want to ensure my body has enough essential amino acids to kind of stop the cannibalism of my muscles as I'm going through and working out, starting that mTOR production. And then post-workout, I typically have, complex carbohydrates, so usually in the form of oatmeal, hot oatmeal that has been microwaved, but as well as a protein shake, right? And, the protein shake is immediately, like whey isolate, for example, very easy to digest. Your body can use it almost immediately to break down into essential amino acids or branch chain amino acids, and then use that for protein synthesis, as well as the complex carbohydrates that allow you to have a nice clean energy burn throughout the rest of the day, replenish your glycogen stores, as well as ensure you have that good balance. Now, one thing I'll say as far as a trick that Andrew Huberman taught me, which has actually worked really well. I was also getting somewhat symptomatic in the afternoon. I would kind of crash in the late afternoon around 2 o'clock or so. And what's interesting about that is Huberman actually put it into the perspective of that your body, when you're going through a muscle exercise, it thinks it's being, it's under stress, right? You're putting your body under massive stress. You're lifting heavy weights. Your muscles are being torn. You're damaging your body in a good way to replenish. And it's obviously making us stronger, making us better, all that good stuff. But when you're done lifting, your body doesn't know, what the hell happened. If you're fighting off a bear, if there's a tiger around you, like, what does that mean? So your body's still in that active engagement mode where it's at its peak. It is firing on full cylinders. Your energy production is up. Your body's at an all-time high. And what happens then is, you're going to basically feel the effects of that, down the road, because you're going to be crashing when you've expended all that energy, as well as kind of keeping your body in that high alert status. So one of the things he recommended is, laying on your back for about 5 minutes or so, listening to some, soft music or some massage music or things like that. And it basically tells your body whatever I just went through is over, and your body calms down and you're back into that state. And I thought it was bullshit at first. And when I started doing it, I'm like, wow, I didn't get tired today. I didn't need, this power nap. I didn't need this. I feel great. So it actually works for me. And every time I get done lifting, I actually I have a routine. I lay down on the gym floor, play some relaxing music, close my eyes, wait 5 minutes, and then I go back upstairs and I'm great. And that has been my routine that I use, and it's helped me out substantially as I go through and do my routines.
Okay. For you do it in your gym. So I decide tomorrow that I'm going to go to Gym Doc and I need to chill out.
You can do it when you get home. You can do it, in your car, wherever you do it. You have to do it.
It's like that weird guys lying on the floor. And you're like, what the fuck?
You do that like right at the front door where people were walking in to step over you.
yeah. Or like on the treadmill, like they just like curled up with a lot. Yeah, I do agree. And I think that even that, like having that understanding of your body, that it goes through different transitions based on what's going on. And we've spoken of before about like optimal digestion post-workout and why I would go for a protein shake and something like cereal or Cocoa Puffs or something like that. And I haven't had Cocoa Puffs in a long time, but something that's easy to digest, because you've put your body under stress. The blood is flowing around the muscle, whatever muscle group you've just trained. There's not a lot of blood in your digestive system to digest the food. So having something that brings you back down into that rest or digest state, whether it's meditation or just like going for a walk to chill out or lying on the floor like Dave does and having a nap, whatever you need to do to sort of bring yourself back to that state. But it's recognizing that there are different states that your body can be in and how to sort of manage them, and not going, oh yeah, I just get tired every day at 2 o'clock, and not going, okay, is there a way that I can not get tired? Like, what is the cause of this? Is it the food that I'm eating? Am I eating, too many carbs at lunchtime? Is it the training? Is it the caffeine? There's so many different factors and variabilities that we can play. And I think oftentimes people are just too willing to accept that, oh, well, that's just the way it is. It's 2 o'clock and everybody gets tired at 2 o'clock. And it's like, yeah, but there's a reason. And, we can combat that and we can work around it.
Well, and that's the thing about, I can't emphasize enough, blood work, right? Blood work can also show you some major issues that you have. Like, for example, I used to get really tired in the afternoon without even working out. And turns out my thyroid was producing high levels of TSH, which, well, my thyroid wasn't, my brain was basically signaling, hey, I need you to produce more T3 hormones in your body. And my thyroid, which I have a partial thyroidectomy, was saying, dude, I'm already cranking out as much as I possibly can. I'm exhausted. And my brain's like, keep going. I need more. What are you doing? Why aren't you doing more? And so my TSH levels flooded really high, which means that my body can't produce enough T cell hormones for me to be at my maximum potential. So I started having the effects of that. And so blood work showed that. And I had to increase my doses of levothyroxine, which, since I've done that, I feel fantastic with it. So again, blood work can really tell you, hey, maybe I'm if I'm not feeling great, I feel like I'm just in a bitchy mood all the time, and I'm just like, not a good person. Hey, take a look at my vitamin D levels. Maybe that's like sunshine in a bottle, happiness in a bottle. So those are the things that you can do to really kind of tailor yourself if you're, symptomatic of certain things. That's why, like we talk a lot about testosterone on this practice, on this thing. Testosterone and estrogen for women are like the miracle hormones for men and women. Like, these are the things that you want ample amounts of it in your body in order to ensure your maximum potential. If you have low testosterone levels, and what pisses me off about the medical field today, and again, I'm obviously not a doctor. This is my opinion. This is what I've done from a research perspective. This is what my PCP has said as well as the specialized clinics that I go to. The doctors aren't up to speed today in the latest research around testosterone and its impact that it has on men, as well as estrogen for women, especially during pre and post menopause. These are things that we should be getting out there that can really change people's lives that we don't discuss on a regular basis as humans, because either it's too taboo, or PCPs are more reactive than proactive when it comes to your overall health. And so testosterone levels piss me off. The question is, are you feeling symptomatic? Are you sluggish? Do you have brain fog? Is your ability to put on muscle mass reduced? What's your energy levels look like? And then if your testosterone levels are in the lower end of testosterone, you probably are a great candidate for testing testosterone levels. And everybody's different. Like, someone may, work fine at 600. Someone may need to be at 900. Someone might need to be at 1300, free testosterone, indirect. So, your hormone levels are something that you want to be very careful of. You don't want to sit there and F with, but you want to do things that can optimize yourself so that you feel the best you possibly can. And here's the thing. Why are we doing this? Why are we lifting weights? Why are we talking on this podcast? Why are we talking about nutrition? It's so that we can feel the best we possibly can, perform the best we can, and feel accomplished. It's not just having big muscles. It's not, looking great with your t-shirt off. It's the other things that make this all better for you, which is the longevity of life things, to be here for your family, to be interactive and with your family, and being part of it, and being able to sit there and say, hey, I take care of myself. I take care of my body. Thus, the rest of the things, my mental clarity, my focus, my energy levels, all that stuff is at an all-time high because I optimize myself. And I'm happy to say I'm an optimized person. I take testosterone. I enjoy it. It's the best thing I've ever done, and I would never look back. And those are some of the things that I've done from a supplementation perspective, based off my blood work that I knew I needed. I was in the hypogonadism stage, low testosterone, having all the symptoms, and since then, those have all subsided.
And I think, what that comes down to is you showed an interest in terms of the physiology of your body and where it was struggling, and how can we look at that and how can we analyze it? It's not just taking testosterone because the guy in the gym told you to take testosterone. And I think that that's where the sort of taboo and where the negativity comes around, of like the abuse side of it. Whereas because you're doing it properly, you get it prescribed, and it's like, okay, right, here's the data, here's my blood work, this is how it's impacted me, and I don't want to feel like this. How can I change it? And then that's whenever you go down the route of actually changing it, and obviously the benefits that come along with it. And I think, when you sort of reverse engineer it as to the quality of life that you can have, and actually, I just had a call with Jason about our next in real life event, which I'm excited for, and I'll talk about it another time. But he was talking about his recent trip. It was him and his wife's anniversary, and it was a very active trip. They did a lot of hiking. It sounded incredible, like volcanoes, rainforest. I was like, sounds amazing. But what he was talking about the context of the conversation was the quality of life that he has based on the changes that he's made to his body. Now, let alone the fact that he looks like an absolute animal at the minute, but the quality of life in terms of the stuff that he is able to do now that he potentially wasn't able to do 2 years ago, and how that, that's something that he didn't necessarily know he was missing out on because he had spent so long not being in a place that he could go and do those things. And he said that trip would have been entirely different if he hadn't have sort of made the change. And ultimately what we're talking about here is the quality of life. And a lot of the calls and conversations I've had with people coming on board with the new program is they are talking about being around for the kids and having the energy to run after the kids and stuff like that. And it is a case of a lot of them have sedentary jobs. We're at the desk, and it is hard, and like you just don't have the energy to go and do things specifically some days after work. And I mean, that's okay to an extent, but it can't be an all the time thing. And again, if there's a way that you can make it better and not just accepting it has to be this way because it's been that way for so long. And it comes back to the tweet that I sort of retweet quite often, that just because it's always been that way doesn't mean it always has to be that way.
Yeah.
And what that means is you don't have to accept things for as they are. Like, there are ways to change things regardless of what it is, whether it's your energy levels, whether it's your weight, whether it's whatever you're struggling with. Like, you're fully in control. And to go back to our last podcast, ownership, it's about owning your decisions and everything that you do day to day that put you in that state. and then recognizing and reverse engineering from the point of, okay, right, well, if I feel this way and this is why I'm doing it, if I don't do that, am I going to feel a different way? And that's how the experiment starts. And you just continue in this positive cycle of, okay, getting better. And ultimately, as we said time and time again, why we do this is because we want to be better today than we were yesterday.
Yep. And I think that's the summary of what we're explaining. I mean, you look at everything we talked about from the bulking and cutting phase. Again, it's accountability for yourself and having the foundation to be able to build that. The supplementation. Hey, what do I need for my body to do this? You know, all of those things are things that we do on a regular basis to understand ourselves, understand our bodies. And everybody's body is completely different. Our genetics are different. You know, I may be deficient in one thing. Somebody that lives in California gets more sun, maybe less deficient in vitamin D than I am here versus Seattle. You know, so, environmental things can make a big difference. Your genetics can make a big difference. And that's the most important thing to understand, is that most of the things that are ailments to us as we get older, cardiovascular health, cancer, a lot of those percentages can be cut down substantially based off of taking care of yourself. And, I'm not saying it's a sure sign. Genetics still may kick your ass and you may get cancer, or, you may die an early death of cardiovascular health. But, usually there are signs and things that hopefully you can determine that prior to that. Like, for example, cardiovascular health, if you're getting blood work done recently, or, on a more regular basis, you should be able to see, signs of potential cardiovascular issues. So again, all of these things are things that we tailor ourselves to make ourselves better and to reduce our chances of dying early and having those longevity impacts for being here for our family and our kids, for ourselves, and having a good time. And I'll tell you, when I lift, that is one of my highlights of my day. I don't dread it. I enjoy it. It's my sanctuary. Those are the things that when your mind switches to something like that, where you're doing something for yourself and you're making yourself better, you're in a good position. And it's going to take some time to get there, especially if you're just starting off. But, I can't imagine. It was funny because I was thinking about when I had my surgery for my thyroid, I was out for 3 weeks, where I wouldn't be able to lift for 3 weeks just from a thyroid perspective. I'm like, that sucks. Would I even get my thyroid removed now? Because that's 3 weeks of training that I'm not able to do.
You're when and you're like, will I really take the 3 weeks off?
I'm just looking back.
I know I'm supposed to take 3 weeks off, but I mean, it was an hour ago that I got my surgery, so I'm probably good to go and lift.
I'm probably good now at this point. Yeah, we're probably ready to go. So, I think it's important to, obviously listen to your body and obviously listen to your ailments and health. But at the end of the day, for me, I look forward to this. This is the excitement part of my day. This is what I enjoy doing. Today at Orange Theory, I did 5,300 meters from a Hell Week perspective on a rower. I almost died. I love that stuff, right? And so at the end of the day,
I almost died. I love it. It's great.
That's right. I'm going again this afternoon. But no, I was kidding. Wrapping things up here and kind of finalizing it, again, hopefully everybody in this podcast understands the small changes have long-lasting impact on the rest of your journey. And that's really our goal here. And everybody's goals are different. Some folks might want to be skinny, and some folks might want to be more on the heavier side and have more muscle mass. Some people might want to be a power lifter. Some people might want to be a bodybuilder. Some people might want to be just normal and be able to feel good when they have their shirt on. I mean, all of those are noble goals of whatever you want to accomplish. But here's the thing, you can accomplish them. You just have to put your mind to it and set yourself up for success versus failure of what you've done before in the past. So, all this is possible. You can do it. Believe in yourself and have that discipline to push yourself forward and to be there for your family.
Yeah, I agree. I think the cool thing about it is the space and the community and the accountability that comes from, the Discord and everything else is a cool space. And again, the more and more people that I've spoken to over the past week or so, the same sort of struggles and the same sort of thing, that they're in the same sort of mindset of, I've been meaning to do this for a while. I've been meaning to reach out. I do train every so often. I'm just missing structure and direction and accountability. So being able to provide that for people is a cool tool as well. And, genuinely, I wouldn't be in the position that I am today if I didn't ever start in the gym. And I know that maybe seems like an extreme thing, but that little change that I made to my lifestyle has led me to the place now where I can help you and I can help everybody else, and we can do this fucking podcast. None of this stuff would have happened if I hadn't have made that decision to make that change initially. So you never know where or what it could lead to.
Absolutely. My journey is still evolving, and 40 years old. best shape of my life, even including when I was in the Marines. And that's an awesome statement to be able to make at 40. And at 50, I'm going to say I kicked my 40-year-old ass then, 700-pound deadlift or whatever it is. So,
we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Let's one day at a time. One day at a time.
Right. All right. Well, hey, everybody, thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. Hacking Your Health. We're on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at We Hack Health. Check us out, our Discord server. We provide this for free for folks as a community to help one another. So hopefully check us out. If you like what we're doing, share us with your friends and family. And hopefully, you can continue to make an impact on other people's health and wellness as well. But we really appreciate all of our listeners, your loyalty, the comments, the progress. It just keeps us driven every day and keeps us going.
All of our listeners and followers that retweet us like The Rock.
I can be like The Rock on now at this point. I mean,
wow, you're his friend. We're
kind of friends now at this point. So I got 2 tweets from him. I feel like we're like best friends.
I just need you to remind him who the cardboard cutout is and who is painted on the mural on his wall before he gets too big for his boots.
That's right. You're on the wall, which I may be having the muralist come and add The Rock to the wall. But I don't have a cardboard cutout though.
Right. I'll see you next week.
See y'all later.